Hello there and welcome to another episode of World of Tanks with Ungainly Titan. So we're here on the Ardennes map on the summer variant, and I think it's one of the few variants where it actually makes a significant difference to gameplay. I don't think it makes any real difference in where the tanks go. I think the behaviour of the players in terms of where they go and what kinds of tanks are pretty much identical on both the summer and winter variants of this map. No, what I think the difference makes is that it's much easier to follow the line of the terrain and figure out where exactly the ridge lines and the line of the contours are on the summer variant. In the winter variant, everything's kind of white with flecks of green, and it can be quite difficult sometimes to distinguish where exactly the contour edges are, or the crest ridgeline edges, and therefore a tank that's peeking in and out behind a ridgeline or behind cover, it can be difficult to tell where the tank is in relation to the cover, because the red outline will show obviously the entire tank. If you hover the targeting reticle over a part of the tank that is visible to you, then the entire tank will appear, but without waving the reticle around, it's not always immediately obvious which side of the tank's the bit in under cover. And it's easier and quicker to determine this in the summer variation of the map because the ridgelines stand out much clearer. Don't know, of course, if this is just me or it affects everybody else the same way. So I think that one of the advantages of the summer variation is that you can fire off your shots more quickly and cleanly, because you can assess the target and its orientation and stuff a lot more easily. Now, I don't necessarily find this the case in other winter variations of the maps. Mountains Pass and those, there's less foliage and the map is more, and there's more contrast and shading in the background, so I think it's much easier to see what's going on in that kind of a map. I suspect some of the trouble people have with the heavy weather variants, where the view ranges are greatly restricted, is a similar kind of thing, that in the heavy weather variants it's very hard to figure out what exactly you're looking at. When a tank is lit up by a nearby ally, you're getting the radio reporting and you can get the outline on your reticle when you point the reticle at it, but you have no idea what the local terrain is around it because all you just see is haze and a tank lit up in the midst of that haze. So that may be, like I said, some of the issues people have with the heavy weather variants of the maps. However, we're here anyway, and we've done okay in the sense that we've done a reasonable amount of damage into the tanks that initially try their luck on the corridor there along the 0 and 9 line. It's always a good spot for tank destroyers if you can get into a spot that has good lines of sight. And it's again, I think one of the advantages of this weather variant is that it's much easier to actually be able to tell where on the ridge lines you need to be to get those kind of lines of sight. Now there's a KV2 out in the middle of the open terrain. He really should have gone into the town where he could engage at pretty close ranges, be very close to cover during reloads, and be able to actually see his opponents. He's out there in the countryside. He has no idea where he's been shot at from, because if he had, he just wouldn't have driven into open terrain. He would have gone somewhere that would have taken him to cover, and even if he knew where I was and could see me, chances of hitting me would be quite slim. However, we're down a tank at this point, and the enemy are still very strongly present in the town. Now I thought there might be some more tanks coming up here along the plaza, and there's an AMX CLC moving in around the roadways there, but he's engaged, he's wiped out. He's being a bit too brave, I think, and now we're seriously down. We're down 3 tanks and outnumbered effectively, what, 2 to 1? So I thought maybe that there's an OI experimental popping up. We take him out and he detects me. I thought I might see a few more tanks there because they must realise that their cap is under threat, that we've had tanks that have gotten clear on the eastern side of the map. However, they don't seem to be paying attention to that at the moment.
Enemies got us in their sights.
Now I'm coming over here because I think there was,
Target locked.
on the off chance there was somebody heading for our cap, and I wanted to sort of slow them down, scare them off a little bit, make them take a detour so as to give our guy who is about to cap a chance to actually get the cap in before the enemy tanks reach our cap circle. So I've done my job in the sense that I've stopped the M4 from doing it. The AMX M4 45 has popped out and we've traded shots, but I can't really afford to continue trading shots with him because I think he has probably more hit points remaining than I do. So at this point I decided my best bet is to actually go and join my allies, because it looks like some of the heavy tanks are actually going back to reset the cap. So the tanks in the cap circle are going to be engaged with them, and that gives me an opportunity to assist them and get some damage in on the tanks that are trying to reset the cap. So there's the AMX M445, and I'm going towards him while I'm spotted. But now that the spot's gone off, I'm basically turning around and heading back the other way, because I wasn't too sure whether he would be heading for the cap circle or just waiting for me. It looks like there's at least 2 tanks trying to reset the cap, and that means that there's, what, 2 tanks on account for. So I'm going to come around here and attack the guys that are trying to reset the cap from the rear. They have actually managed to pull the cap back a bit, I think, but they haven't. They aren't doing a great job on it. So we get rid of one of them, and we have an IS who realizes, I think, that we're here. He just pulls in front of his mate because he needs to reset the cap, and at this point lag takes over my tank. So the IS gets finished up by the guys in the cap circle, and they actually complete the cap before I get regain control of my tank. So anyway, 3,646 damage, high caliber, first class mastery. So, #1 by experience, I think. When it switches over, yes, we're #1 by experience. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you again soon.